Hello, I'm Alex from Annie Best Recaps, and I'd love to tell you a story. And the story begins by telling us that in the third year of the Meireki era, more precisely in 1657, Japan's capital, Edo, was set ablaze, and that more than 100,000 people lost their lives in this tragedy. However, the narrator, who isn't me, reports that there's a truth behind this incident that almost no one knows. It was the beginning of a bloody war between two groups, the ninjas and the Gokudo, which has lasted for over 300 years. The narrator continues, saying that the founder of the Gokudo, a man named Chobei Banzuian, had his subordinates assassinated by the ninjas and set the city on fire for revenge. This act caught the attention of Zanzo Kasai, who was the guardian of Edo at the time. In the fight, Chobei was ultimately defeated by Zanzo, but he entrusted his last will to another Gokudo member, who was not only his friend, but also a formidable rival. And because of this, the desire to defeat the ninjas was passed down from generation to generation within the Gokudo clan. After this brief explanation, the scene shifts, and now we go to the Reiwa era, in the present day, where we see a blonde man with a rather peculiar hairstyle walking past another person who is talking extremely loudly on his phone. Suddenly, we see a phone is falling, and in the next moment, a loud noise is heard. When everyone looks to see what happened, we see the noise was because the blonde man literally threw himself on the ground to catch the chatty individual's phone. Upon returning the phone to its owner, Mr. Steelthroat thanks him for saving his personal phone from shattering on the ground. The blonde man observes the phone case and mentions that it's a super rare limited edition from the anime Flash Princess. The man is shocked to find someone with so much knowledge and quickly realizes that the blonde man, just like him and me and you watching this recap, is also an otaku. The two then begin to talk animatedly about the character Heath, the bad girl of the anime. While everyone around stares at them, they recite their favorite lines, immersed in the world of the work, even mentioning that there is no nobler act in this world than watching a good recap on Annie Best Recaps, and always leaving a like and some hype to support it. After all, Alex does his best to bring the best stories to his otaku friends who watch him, so it's a fair trade. The businessman is impressed with the stranger's knowledge. However, he's suddenly startled when the disheveled guy starts to do something strange with his face. The boy apologizes and explains that he's incapable of smiling or laughing, so he feared his serious expression made it seem like he wasn't enjoying himself, so he tried to force a smile, but his facial muscles, stiff from not being used for so long, didn't obey. The businessman finds the eccentric young man amusing and hands him his business card. His name is written as Gokudo, but pronounced Kiwami. Similarly, Shin's name is written as Ninja, but read as Shinoa. However, before they can continue, Kiwami gets a call and they say goodbye, hoping to talk more about Princess one day. As soon as he leaves, a crow lands near Shin and reports code 334, explaining that the governor has been kidnapped. Shin is instructed to resolve the situation as quickly as possible. The scene then shifts to a warehouse where a tattooed man asks another man, who is pointing a gun at him, to relax. After all, it was he who gave him that gun, and it held no secrets. He mentions that he is talking to Tsubasa Nagashima himself, and that, as he can see, he is unarmed, then asks him to pull the trigger, mentioning that it will be a one-on-one duel, just between them. But before he can pull the trigger, Nagashima draws a gun and does the job, eliminating the man with a clean shot, saying his Gokudo skill is the quick draw. After that, he mentions that he has already taken care of the henchman. It was now time to take care of both the governor and her daughter. The governor threatens him, saying the police are coming, but he and his men just laugh. Nagashima fires a few shots near her, reminding her who's in control. After all, they are the Gokudo, and they don't fear politicians or the police. In fact, it's the other way around. He reveals that the governor is just bait to lure out a certain group. At that moment, the sharp sound of breaking glass draws everyone's attention to a window where they see a strange bullet hole. Suddenly, the governor and her daughter find themselves blindfolded with headphones blasting anime music at full volume. Nagashima's right-hand man, Hikichi, calls out to him, but everyone is horrified by what has happened to him. Hikichi says he doesn't feel well, and we see that his head has been removed from his body. He apologizes for failing, and we realize this was Shin's doing. Chaos erupts, and Nagashima realizes that the group they wanted to lure has finally arrived. An unseen force begins to reap heads with lethal and merciless precision. Nagashima mentions he was waiting for this moment. He recites an ancient Gokudo prophecy about what happens when someone misbehaves in the underworld but is interrupted. He turns and finds a strange man behind him. Not a single one of his men remains alive. The stranger is Shin, and he finishes the prophecy. Then the ninjas will come calling. Nagashima is in shock as Shin tells him to hurry up and shoot, explaining that the first to fire wins. Instead, the frustrated mobster asks why the ninjas always show up to crush them. Shin looks at the governor and her daughter, replying that the Gokudo drag children into their vile crimes, and that cruelty is the reason why Shin can never laugh or smile. Tired of talking, Shin demands that Nagashima shoot, and he does, but the bullet's speed pales in comparison to Shin's. The ninja dodges the projectile in an instant and rips Nagashima's head off with his bare hand. The mobster, in his final moments, is in awe, as Shin didn't need to be faster on the draw. He beat the speed of the bullet itself. The next morning, the police investigate the scene. Superintendent Maru calls it a Code N, which means ninjas were involved. Modern ninjas serve no one, not bound by money, power, or laws. They slay evil according to their own rules, making them a kind of anti-hero. Elsewhere, former classmates of Shin see him and consider inviting him to a party, but one of them refuses because Shin never smiles. Shin overhears them and reflects, it's not that he doesn't want to, he simply can't. He vaguely remembers a tattooed man brutally attacking someone in his childhood. He sees several people smiling around him and declares to himself that as long as he's the only one who can't smile, then that's all that matters. Sometime later, Shin goes to see Grandpa Kai. He uses his skill to open a soda bottle, and Kai is impressed to see that his apprentice has surpassed him. Shin shows him some suspicious coupons he found, and Kai immediately smells the scent of drugs, paper soaked in liquid drugs. Shin explains that the Gokudo have been acting strangely, almost as if they were luring him out. Kai, one of the 8 Imperial ninjas, tries to tell a joke, but is disappointed to see he still can't make Shin smile. The next day, Shin rushes somewhere panicking about being late. We see he's arrived at the Princess store to buy limited edition items, and to his surprise, he finds Kiwami at the end of the line. Since the latest episode of Princess just came out, the two have a lot to talk about, and Kiwami feels as if Shin could be an old friend. They get along so well. After spending a fortune on merch, the two go for lunch, and Kiwami gets worked up recounting an epic betrayal scene in the anime. Everyone at the restaurant knows him, he's friendly and always giving out tips. Everyone laughs at a joke he tells, and Shin tries to join in, but his face remains incapable of expressing joy. Wanting to change this, Shin listens to Kiwami's suggestion that he needs to connect with others. In other words, make friends. Shin explains it's impossible since his face shows no emotions, but Kiwami, upon hearing this, simply says, "Then I'll be your friend." Shin is confused and a small puff of air escapes his mouth, to which Kiwami points out that it was a laugh. Since it was his first time, Kiwami couldn't be happier for his new friend. Afterwards, they say goodbye with their hands full of merch, and Shin wants to go see his grandpa immediately to tell him that for the first time in his life, he has made a friend. At his grandpa's restaurant, however, Kai receives a message from the crow and closes early. Elsewhere, Kiwami meets his driver. In the car, his expression changes completely, and he takes off his shirt, revealing the tattoos that mark the Gokudo.
Kiwami is informed that the family is in chaos as the ninjas are crushing their profits. His driver says things would be easier if Kiwami took the lead, but he enjoys being a simple office worker and is fine remaining as the shadow boss. However, he has a plan to deal with the ninjas, something to do with the drug-laced paper. Shin arrives at Kai's restaurant to find it closed. At one of the Gokudo bases, two factions are about to kill each other. Kiwami enters the room with a completely different demeanor and introduces himself as the shadow boss, Takamoto. Outside, we see that Kai has arrived for his mission. Inside, Kiwami reveals to everyone that he has found a way to settle the score with their greatest nemesis, a way for the Gokudo to finally eliminate the ninjas. Outside, Kai doesn't know what they're planning, but it doesn't matter, because if they're up to no good, he will simply eliminate them all. And with this imminent collision between Master and his apprentice's new friend, today's episode comes to an end. What a twist, huh? The man who made Shin smile for the first time is the boss of his greatest enemies. And now, my friends, how is this friendship going to survive this? If you want to find out, you know what to do. Smash that like and hype to show your support. Comment your theories, and of course, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next part of this incredible story.